So thank you everybody for joining us this evening for our tips in 20. I'm going to make a start. We have got people still joining us. So you might hear the ping pong of people coming in. So just don't worry about that too much. So tips in 20, if you are new to tips in 20, this is 20 minutes. I'm just looking at my clock. Also, it could be 20 to 30 minutes with top tips and practical strategies on how to thrive in a life that's altered by your child's disability, diagnosis, or additional needs. I am your host, Charlie Beswick. I'm mum to Oliver and Harry. You can see Harry on the screen here. He has golden heart syndrome and autism as well. He's autistic. I've been a teacher for over 16 years. I'm a best-selling author of our book, Altered Life. I am the mentor to mums who also have an altered life, like me, an advocate for parent carers in the workplace. I'm a charity founder, cheeseaholic, and gin lover. Really important that you know that. Tonight, we are talking about ways that you can engage your child who has special education needs and disability in outdoor activities. Particularly important, as over here in the UK, we're going into the school summer holidays. We've got 6 weeks at home, which can be really challenging. So this is going to be really interesting for us all. And this month's guest expert is Karen Wright, who is an environmental designer. I'm not going to say any more than that because I'm going to let Karen introduce herself. And then we're going to come back just to finish up, wrap up, and any questions that you've got, you can either pop into the chat box now or you can ask at the end. If you're watching on replay, then I'll put a link on how you can get in touch with Karen after the session. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to Karen. So I'll mute myself and I'll leave you to it, Karen. Is that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can you see the screen? Perfect. Right. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Wright, as Charlie introduced me, and thank you very much, Charlie, for inviting me along tonight to sort of talk about these ideas of simple activities to engage your child in the outdoors. In your garden, this might be, or even if you're just going out into the park. So, as an introduction, I'm a parent carer to a son who has a rare medical condition called tuberous sclerosis. And the result of this, he has epilepsy, autism, and other difficulties. And the other difficulties, you know, may sort of cover, many of you may recognize some of these things, sort of social anxiety, sort of sensory, fine and gross motor skill issues. And some of these things we're going to sort of cover with the ideas for what we can do with our children in the garden. So I'm also a professional environmental designer. I've run my own business for 21 years from home alongside my family and my caring needs for the family. But my main passion is all about inclusive environmental design and various solutions for targeted activities for beneficial outcome. Now, that might sound a bit complicated, but hopefully I can sort of touch on a few of these further into the presentation, just to sort of link it back. So I work with sort of large-scale parks, school grounds, care facilities, that type of thing, but also our own back gardens. And this is a little picture here. This is my own back garden from many, many years ago. And that's my son sitting in the egg chair, looking at the pond, which we dug together. Also, alongside my environmental design things, I also do like one-to-one horticultural and garden support for young people with additional needs. So I work alongside them, either in their own gardens or with their parents, and they learn new skills and we build confidence and just enjoy the outdoors. But we may just chat along the way. You know, it's all about, you know, having fun. So tonight we're going to have a little look at some of the little examples at the bottom here. So a pond in a pot, or if you don't fancy water, if water's an issue, we can make a bog garden. A bug pot hotel, clay creatures, and that's shape and mark making, some clay funny faces, and we'll look at options for that as well, and leaf and flower art. And the idea is all of these can be sort of gathered from, you know, natural materials, can be gathered from your garden, or head out for a lovely walk with a bag and sort of fill up the bag with all the materials that you need. So number one, the pond in the pot. So here, just to give you a bit of scale, the pot is around about 50 centimetres, 20 inches in diameter. It's quite a large pot. And they are quite expensive in the garden centres. But if you keep your eye out on some of the marketplace, Facebook marketplace, you can actually see often people are selling these a lot cheaper. And so you can snap yourself up a bargain. You'll need a cork to plug the hole in the bottom, some water, and actually rainwater, if you can collect some, is better than putting tap water in to create your pond. So the pot, you could, and it's useful to have a little pot and a large stone, or large stones or gravel, some sticks and twigs, and I'll explain what we need, why you need those in a minute. And then the other thing, pop down to your nursery and see if you can find some aquatic plants. Now I've written this down here so that you can, you know, sort of the idea about what to ask for. So your marginal aquatics are the plants that grow in your shallow water. And then the oxygenating plants and other aquatics are those that will be floating around. If water's an issue, then you can basically just cover the hole with a few stones, leave the hole open, don't plug it, fill it up with soil, and then add water and turn it into like a bog garden. And again, you'd be looking at the marginal aquatics for that. So if you click to the next page, and you'll see what we did here. So we filled it with water, and then I've used an upturned pot, and all of that's, the only reason for that is to basically gain a little bit of height in the water. So we've added a marginal aquatic. You can see it sitting on the top of the pot there. And the plan is then to sort of build up an area that you can place some of these marginal aquatics on, and it provides like an edge effect, so that the animals can literally crawl in and out of your pot. Otherwise, they're stuck in there. If you have frogs in your pond and they can't escape, then basically, they won't survive. So you have to have some way of them getting in and out. It could be a stick, could be a big stone. So it's just thinking about creating this edge effect. So you can see here, this is a few years later on ours. We've got a toad. We had some newts. This is my son holding these, and a damselfly, and lots of water snails as well. And they're brilliant because they actually keep your little pond clean. So this is after a few years, and it's just filled up after about a year, really. So number 2. A bug pot hotel. Now this pot is about 20 centimetres. You can make bigger ones or smaller ones. You could combine pots together if you like that idea. And here again, you go finding materials in your garden or from a walk, things like sticks, twigs, or even cut bits of bamboo, cardboard, dried moss, dried grass, leaves, pine cones, scrunched up paper or scrunched up cardboard, or even feathers if you can find them. And the idea is basically just cram them, feed them into your pot, as tight as you can get them. And that is your mini bug hotel. And like I said, you can make a few and stack them together, or sort of tuck them in amongst your planting, and then spend a bit of time looking and seeing what's in there along the way. So that's the bug pot hotel. So this one here, this is the third one now, the clay creatures. So this you would actually have to buy some air drying clay here, and it comes in different colors. You can get gray, or there's like a terracotta color, or white. You can see the gray here and the terracotta, and here it's just about having fun, having a play with shapes. And if you look at the fish, you can see that that's got all sorts of various markings on it, and that was done with the end of a felt tip pen. And it just had an interesting mark making, and you just stamped them all on, and it made this incredible sort of scaled effect. And then you use a stick to scrape lines in. You can then add things to your creatures. You can put sticks in to make legs, add flowers, incorporate cones or pine needles. And again, so here as well, air drying clay is your main ingredient for this particular activity. And then collect your sticks and twigs and flowers. And then think about the patterns and imprints and marks that you can make on these animals. And obviously, the main thing is as well that obviously I don't know all of you, your children, but you can try and tailor this to your child's needs. So sometimes you might take a little bit of time to encourage them to have a go at something. So they might sit and watch you having having a go at this before, you know, having a go themselves. If you want to then take it to the next level, you could get some paint. I know I've written here mixing pots and bowls, but again, you just use recycled pots, yogurt pots, that type of thing. It doesn't have to be anything special. A paintbrush, or you could actually just use moss as your paintbrush, a natural paintbrush, or even a dandelion, as you can see on the sort of spider's back there. You could use that as a paintbrush as well. You don't have to have a paintbrush. In fact, sometimes it can be more fun just to use different bits of natural materials. For this one, obviously, if you're outdoors, I mean, I've used a little tray here. That's actually a tray that you can put pots in for growing plants. Or I often use a tablecloth, which I just put out on the grass or on the table, just to protect your table or surfacing. But generally, you know, if you're using these types of paints, they'll wash away anyway. And it's easier to clear up if you've got a tablecloth or a tray. So again, using the same material with the clay, this one's just taking the mark making and imprints using natural materials one step further. If you look at the triangular one, there's an imprint of a stick on there, and we've used a daisy, and we've just stuck the daisy in, so you can actually see all the little tiny daisy center marks, and then use the paint to actually create a daisy effect. Again, this other one was used the end of a bamboo stick on the one on the right, and just dipping that in. And again, we then painted these and then just added different colors and effects. So once the glaze all dried, you could varnish them back, you know, in the front and the back, and they would last a little bit longer in the garden if you want to leave them out. Or you could make like a few of them, put them all together and stick them together, either put them on a canvas or on a frame, or dot them around the garden as sort of like things to sort of hunt for and look for, or focal points to spot or show your friends, or things to talk about, how you made it, what it was made from. It's just like something interesting to add to your garden. So this is the next one. This is the number, I think this is number 4. Again, we're using clay on this one, but it's clay funny faces. There's a stick, and we've added balls of clay to the end of the stick. So again, you could create that yourself, you know, put that on, and then allow your child to feed in sticks and cones and make indentations on them or whatever. And the other idea about this as well is you could then use that as a puppet. Is a sort of an extra thing, you know, sort of have a bit of fun with it, and make it noises and almost talk with it or whatever, or pop it out from behind a tree or something like that. So again, you're collecting these sort of things on your walk or in the garden. And then the final one, we've actually stuck some clay to a tree trunk. And again, this could be, you could use a fence as well for here. You know, the clay will gradually disappear or just slide off over time. You could even paint them as well. And it's interesting to watch how the clay sort of disappears and sort of returns back to nature in a way. Next one, number 5. So leaf and flower art. So here, this was something that I did actually with the National Autistic Society. We had a gathering, and we had to come up with a sort of a fun thing to do. So we created the canvas backgrounds and the paper backgrounds that you can see, but I've included that on here. They were made by laying bits of fern and twigs and grass we just picked from the garden, laid them on top of the canvas or laid them on top of the grass, and then using a spray bottle with watered down paint or a toothbrush, and then just squirting and flicking onto the canvas and the or the paper. And once it had been dried, left it in the sun actually, and it dried very quickly, then you just peel away the ferns and leaves, and you get this silhouette effect, which is very effective, you know, as a backdrop to your sort of leaf and flower art. We then also used a black marker pen. You can see on the fern, we just added a little bit of detail, some dots and some swirls. And at the top here, someone just using a little bit of glitter glue and created a mermaid and added feathers to theirs. You can also actually draw on the leaves. So you can see the bug there. We've actually drawn little round circles on the bug's wings. And we've used a stone for its head as well, little antennae. So it's just about being sort of creative. So you go around the garden and sort of pick and collect a variety of leaves, different colours, different patterns, like the variegated leaves you've got here as well, little petals as well, and then just arrange them to make fantasy creatures and insects. So that's, and it might need a little bit of glue for that as well, if you want them to stay put, obviously, and keep them for a little while longer. And then the other idea as well, you could just pick a leaf, stick it to a piece of paper, get your pen ready as well, and then just add legs and heads and arms. And we've got a little collection of happy turtles here, and then a smiley face with a acer leaf, sort of like an autumn one, so it's slightly purpley. Well, it's a purple acer on this particular occasion. There's a bit of mad hair on the smiley face. And then another idea that this is what I did with my sons. He wanted to look at the different types of leaves and what they were. So again, we picked some and then we pressed them. You layer them between a bit of kitchen roll. You just keep them all separate. Don't lay them on top of each other because they'll stick together, but lay them all underneath into bits of kitchen roll, and then just put a couple of very heavy books on top of them. Leave them for a week, and you have a dried leaf. Stick them on the page, and if you're feeling very, very sort of adventurous, you could look up their names. And he was getting quite excited about some of these Latin names for these plants. And luckily, we didn't have to look up too many of them. But, that's another thing you can think about doing. And so then you get that connection with the garden, with the outside, that suddenly the leaf becomes, you understand what it is or how it looks. So for instance, the turtle at the top, on the top left, that's a hazel leaf. So you could say, give the turtle a name. It's called Hazel, and that reminds you that hazel leaf is where it's come from. So there's different ways of connecting, the outdoor environment and linking that back through to sort of little bits of educational knowledge with your child. So going back to what I was saying before about beneficial outcomes, this is just a little summary here about sort of, why these activities do support your child. And sometimes we sort of forget that, they're actually quite important. So obviously the most obvious one is being outside in nature. We all know there's health benefits and for our well-being. This is my son lying in his cradle swing, just spinning. This is a walk that we do, when we collect all of our little bits of materials and bring them back in our bags to have a play with. So that's being outdoors. Then the sort of fine motor skill side of things. I know many of us probably have to carry out, sort of activities on repetition for fine and gross motor skills. That sort of pincer movement for your fingers, and gross motor skills for being able to sit. So all of these things, actually, when you're actually holding a twig and pressing and pushing it into a bit of clay, this is what we do, or this is what we've had to do with our occupational therapists for many, many years. And so you sort of think, well, let's make it fun. Let's just take a piece of clay and start sticking a stick in it and make a hedgehog and then paint it. And the child has no real idea that actually they're really, really encouraging, supporting themselves to improve their finger movements. And finally, just for the fun of it, the creativity and being allowed to experiment. And I'm quite bad at this, actually. I try really hard not to get too involved and sort of start to say, oh no, try it like this or try it like that. You've got to leave them be, let them get messy, let them experiment with something, and often they come up with the most incredible creations and ideas because they've just been left to think, to think about it and have a go. So that was my sort of reference to experimentation and just having fun. So yeah, a page of text, sorry about that, but there are things we have to consider. Obviously, your child best and how they interact with various activities that you might introduce to them, and you might just scale things and introduce them slowly. Sometimes, sort of mud and clay is not always the most exciting, thing to want to try and play with, but often through example, they can give things a go. Involve them in the process of collecting the materials, choosing the plants, in your garden, maybe for leaf and texture and that type of thing, so that you can then use them in these activities. And even creating new features, you know, like what do they like, what do they want to see. This sparks greater interest and interaction over time. So if you're worried about water, even small elements of water in terms of, you know, obviously being going everywhere, or, you know, for safety reasons, then, you know, look at alternatives. Wait till they're a little bit older, or if they're understanding sort of the dangers involved, but you know them best. And the final one on this list here is, remember, the children learn from the way that we react to things. So you can still encourage your child to interact with insects and animals and water, mud, clay, paint, the plants, as long as it's safe to do so. You know, safe plants and safe insects, not stinging ones, for instance. You know, but even if you're, you might struggle with that yourself, like sort of the clay or something, or holding an insect. You don't have to do it necessarily yourself, as long as it's safe. But you know, you encourage your child to have a go and pick a woodlouse up or something like that, or put it in a little pot to study it for a little while, or have a look. I often have Sam has a friend that comes round, and he's absolutely intrigued by our pond. And the other day I said, oh, there's some newts in there, and he's really. So we got the net and we got this newt, and he was just absolutely fascinated by this newt. And I said, oh, you can hold it. And he said, can I? I said, yeah, you have to just be careful with it. So there's this little newt on his hand, and he was just blown away by this whole idea that he could hold this little newt. And it's absolutely fascinated to do that. But it made me realise that he hadn't actually had that opportunity to hold this newt, and to really, and he was studying it. You could see it, he's watching his little eyes and everything. It was lovely. It was one of those lovely moments. So the other final bit is preparation. Now, many of us will know that by the time you've got the box out, the bag out, set everything else on the table and everything, your child has completely lost interest, disappeared off out of the room, and has lost all interest in what it is you're doing. So something that I've learned along the way is to have everything to hand. That's why I've listed the various bits of equipment and things, or materials. Try and have it all in place. Maybe have an image of what it is you're going to make as a sort of exciting little temptation. So it might help you visualize and understand what it is you're going to make and what the expectation is of what you're going to do. Maybe go through the list of materials and literally go through them and tick them off as you find them. So you might be, collecting leaves and flowers, or it might be, can you find the glue stick in the bag or in the box? So you've got all these things ready. It's sort of all part of the process, and that can be done sort of inside or at home. So as a little quick summary, I've just added the all of the materials that have been listed previously. I'm not going to go through them all because there's lots of them, but that's generally the sort of things that you'll need to sort of have a go at these types of activities. Majority of these things, probably you'd hope that we'd have, obviously not the aquatic plants and the marginals or anything like that, but you could collect from your garden or outside in a park, or you'll have them at home. Well, then not difficult things to find. So I'm hoping that most of those bits and pieces you'd be able to sort of find easily. So yes, that's the end of my little presentation on 5 things to do over the summer. And you can see from the photographs that we've definitely had fun creating all of those things I shared with you. And I hope that some of them are of interest and you're going to have a go.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Karen. That was really, really good. I think I would also add, I know that the air drying clay is one option, but if you just Google homemade sort of clay or homemade air drying, there's alternatives with flour and things like that you could actually make. So depending on how sensory your child is, they could get involved in actually making the clay as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's another alternative as well. So that's fantastic. Karen, could you just stop sharing your screen for a second for me? Thank you. Continue. Lovely. So just to finish off, I showed you this screen in error earlier. So if you enjoyed this, we have got sessions like Karen's, and in lots of different areas in the membership. So I'm not going to read through all that because it's there. So you can just pause this on replay and go through this. But the membership basically is for mums who might be feeling a little bit lost, a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit intimidated by professionals, a little bit guilty because they're spending all their time with one child and feel like they're not giving the other child enough attention. So this was certainly my experience over the last 17 years. So that's the membership. If you're feeling any of those things, the membership that we've got, the More Than a Mum, the Empowerment Pathway is for you. So you will know if it's for you. If, as I say, if you're feeling all of those things, and included, you get a course almost. It's live sessions with me on developing your emotional mastery, advocacy, so sticking up for your kids and having your voice heard, making time for yourself and other people as well. And there's a whole list of things that you get there included in the membership. This is the membership that I needed when my boys were younger. It doesn't exist anywhere else, so I'm hoping to fill that gap and make sure that you get the mental health support that you deserve, because if your foundations are solid, then you can really support your children much better. Again, I'm not going to read that through, but please do have a pause, do pause this and have a read, because that's what you'll be able to achieve once your foundations, as I say, are nice and solid. And you can then live with confidence, calm, clarity, ease, and not look back, as I do now, and have those regrets about, you could have done things slightly differently if you'd been in a better headspace. It took me a long time, and I don't want that for other mums. So you can join today for £12.99 a month, which is less than 50p a day, or £150 for the year. So you do get a bonus, a discount for joining annually. And if you want more information, sendginandcheese.org has got that information and more. So you can join there. You can send me some messages if you've got any information, you want more information. But there's tons of information there, including some free resources as well. So the last thing to ask is, does anybody have any questions? So let me just check the chat box. I think we're all right for questions at the moment. Yep. Okay. But if you are watching this on replay and you want to get in touch with Karen, either for more clarification or to find out about the services that she offers, then I'm going to pop a little link in the YouTube box so that you can click on that and go to her website and get in touch. Is that okay, Karen?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us for another Tips in 20. Thank you, Karen, for being our guest expert. I've loved that. I cannot wait to get cracking with this over the 6 weeks. I'll send you some photographs about what we do in the 6 weeks, and you can pop those up as a nice testimonial as well, because I can be really guilty of sitting in the house, and Harry can sort of sit on the iPad, and I can use the iPad as a bit of a babysitter sometimes and crack on with my own work. But I think having something like this, maybe one a week, will just give us that reason to get out and do a little bit of walking, and I think that'll be really good for us. Definitely for me, probably better for me than him, in fact. But it's win-win, isn't it? So thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye, Karen. Take care.
Bye.